this view because that's a good way to start our stream.
I think you just put us on.
Oh, did I? Are we? Oh, yeah, we're live. Sorry. I
Right.
was messing around. All right. Well, we're like 2 minutes early, but that's how it goes. I
Oh,
was
we can chit chat. Oh,
I was testing I was just testing certain angles and I pushed the wrong button, but this can be part of the coming soon, no?
yeah, sure. Why not?
Coming
The last
soon.
movie I saw was One Battle After Another.
Don't know that.
P.T. Anderson. It just came out.
Okay.
Have you ever seen There Will Be Blood?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it was from that director.
Okay.
He shot it on film, and the theater I went to had the film. And I guess because it was on film, there were no previews.
Okay.
So but they didn't start the movie at 10 o'clock. They started at like 10:25 or 10:35 or something.
Okay.
And we just all sat there like, what's going on? Eventually somebody came and said, well, there's no previews, but we're still going to start it at the time that the previews would have lasted or some weird
And
shit like that.
like back in the days when I used to go to cinema, and that was like one of the best parts, no? It's like
Right, the previews are fun.
the previews and the trailers and
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
that
this
was
is
always. I mean, it's really like a bygone era, isn't it? Like the whole going to the movie theater thing. I mean,
I try to go often,
yeah,
even if I'm just like, whatever. It's still fun to go with your wife, your girl, and
yeah.
sit down, and they're pretty empty. I think the
I
most
bet they
packed.
are. I remember the first time I saw cell phone people using their phones in the theater, and
That's
it
just gross.
literally it ruined cinema for me forever. I mean, the
Right.
whole point is
I
like
don't
you're.
see that anymore. Yeah.
Well,
Although
I'm talking about the early days of like,
right.
when
The smartphone.
smartphones became ubiquitous, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was actually during the Hunger Games. My
Perfect.
ex-girlfriend like said, "Can we please go see it?" I'm like, "What are you, 13 years old? Like, I really want to see it." And I was like, "All right, we can go." And and I think after that, like, I never really. Yeah, I think that was like I was like done after that. I'm like, anyway. All right, well, we're here at 7 o'clock. We're gonna
Welcome,
get the
welcome.
show on the road here, Bobby.
Right. Okay. Well, hello everybody. Um, we're gonna be a little bit different today. Still gonna go into Pac-Man. But we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into composing. Generally, what is an original idea? What is stealing? I had asked David a long time ago, what makes a hack? When do you when can you call somebody a hack?
When their music
I'll give you a,
sucks.
I'll give you a sneak. Well, I think one of the things you said was what I took away from it was that there really are no hacks at the professional level. It's just sometimes you have to figure out where they are as a composer, where they are as a service provider. There's
Right.
so much that goes into it,
Right, right.
and it's easy to stand back and say John Williams is a hack because he took from King's Row. But then when you find out that George Lucas asked him to basically do that,
100%. Yeah, he was doing his job.
right,
For those that don't know what we're talking about, if you listen to a soundtrack by Eric Korngold for the 1942 movie starring Ronald Reagan, believe it or not, it was called A King's Row, and it literally is Star Wars, and so much to the point that I once taught a kind of like a music history class, And hang on, let me just grab this here. And so, yeah, what I did was I made a composite mix. So this is a King's Row and Star Wars being played together and mixed at equal volumes. Ready? And there you go. I think it's really, oh my God, the levels are terribly low. Sorry about that, guys. Let me try that.
Yeah, it's a bit low.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know why that is, man, but let's bring that up a little bit more. All right, here we are. Let's take two. And the point is, listen to the first. They are literally, you cannot distinguish one from the other. They are 100% the same. Listen again. So like the first 3 seconds are indistinguishable one from the other, to the point that we can play them together. And you know, this, so that sort of, yeah, it raises the point then, like, is John Williams a hack for doing that? Like, no, absolutely not, you know? So, yeah, I think...
What do you think about, where is it thievery? Where is it paying respect?
Yeah.
Where is it an homage? Where do those lines come from? I mean,
Yeah.
How do you draw those lines and say...
So, I mean, look, I think it's, look, you know, stealing is just something that's going to happen in the world of art. And so, as I mentioned many times before, I'm a very insecure person, and I think most artists are very insecure people. And so I think, especially in the early days of your career, I think a lot of people sort of feel like, well, if I steal this idea, then like maybe people will like my music, right? I don't think that's the case with John Williams and Eric Korngold. I think he did what Lucas asked of him, which was, I want that grand golden age of Hollywood big orchestra sound, and go into the vaults of, you know, whatever, 20th Century Fox and see what you can find there. And he did his job. He literally just did the job. Now, nobody did that for Pac-Man World 2. You know, I was, you know, given creative license to come up with what I just thought was the music that belonged in Pac-Land for the Pac people, right? So I was given creative license. So that's why I don't, at least for my money, I don't think Pac-Man World 2 sounds like the music of another composer. I think it sounds like me. However, if you look at my soundtrack for Draconis Cult of the Worm, you know, I think I was like 28 or 29 when I did that soundtrack. And, you know, the combat, some of the combat battle music, I was just literally copying the music of my idol, who was Dmitri Shostakovich, a great Russian composer, you know. And speaking of great Russian composers, and this idea of thievery and being a hack, you know, I really believe this, that music does not exist in a vacuum. And even Stravinsky, who is like arguably one of the 10 most influential, if not in the top 5 most influential composers of all time, he said, good composers imitate and great composers steal. And this is coming from one of the greats, like one of the absolute, no, not debated. So, yeah, I think, you know, it's, and then of course, you know, Picasso said something similar, like, you know, a good composer, you know, or sorry, a good
artist
a good,
copy.
what is it?
I think it's something like a good artist copies, a great artist steals.
And a great artist steals, yeah. Which, by the way, Steve Jobs also stole that quote and used it. And so this is a common quote. And so, you know, I think that, I mean, look what Led Zeppelin did. They changed the history of music, and so did the Beatles, arguably the 2 most influential rock bands of all time. Elvis Presley, his first hit, you know, well, maybe one of his second or third, Hound Dog, you ain't nothing but a hound. Like that was from Big Mama Thornton, right? And that was Jerry Stoller and Mike Lieber who wrote that song for Big Mama Thornton. That was her song, and he did it. So, when Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails says that "Hurt," one of his great songs that Johnny Cash covered, he said, "It's no longer my song. It now belongs to Johnny Cash." So do we get angry at these people for their theft? Like, no, because that's how music grows. Every artist absorbs like a sponge everything that is dear to them. And I don't think that anybody, like there's all these lawsuits, people getting sued, and, like with Radiohead and Creep, they got sued, and I think Radiohead lost. But you see, I don't think Radiohead sat there and was like, oh, let's steal this idea. I mean, Killing Joke, which was this punk band in the 1980s, the Nirvana ripped them off all the time. If you look at the guitar pattern for More Than a Feeling, ding, ding, tick, tick, ding, ding, tick, ding, ding, tick, tick, ding, ding, just different chords, exactly the same. In fact, Kurt Cobain would there was a concert where some people were, I don't know what they were doing, throwing shit at them and like harassing, women, and it was just like a mob scene. And so he refused to play that big hit.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah. And so he would basically do the guitar riff. Dung, dung, chicka, chicka, chicka. But then he'd do More Than a Feeling. And I think so like, that's how music evolves, man. Music does not evolve without theft. Yeah. So going to your point now about, when are you a hack? I think you're a hack when you have no original ideas of your own. I think you're a hack when all you do is steal from other people. I can give you a perfect example. Oh gosh, I don't know his name. I forgot his name. This guitar player, he's sort of like everywhere right now on social media for stealing. Danny Sapko, he exposed him. This guy who literally just steals everybody's music. And Rick Beato made a video called, I didn't want to comment on this.
Right.
What's his name? So that's a hack. Because he's still doing it. He's still stealing everything. He has zero original ideas of his own. And Rick Beato said, I didn't want to comment on this, but he just wasn't good enough to be on my channel.
Right.
Because this guy blew up. I forgot his name, honestly. So, but if you look at the Danny Sapko, who's like this amazing bass player, I think he's like Yorkshire accent. He's so funny. Bass. I love him. Yeah. He's so amazing. Anyway, he did all this investigation on what the guy was stealing and who he was stealing from. And he's like, he probably didn't think that some guitar player in Thailand 6 years ago who only got 20 views, he probably thought he could steal that and no one would ever know. Well, I know. And Danny Sapko, I mean, he's sort of like in those moments, like he just is exposing the bullshit. So that guy is a hack. He's a hack, right? I think that there's also, we have to understand that there's a market for kitsch, right? So people like kitsch. And so I think there are, we can also talk about the difference between an artist and an artisan, right? So an artisan who has a lot of skills might, sit there carving out of wood the Colosseum in Rome and make, 100 of them all hand carved and sell them. Like, are they an artist? I would argue no. Do they have the skills of an artist? Absolutely, 100%. But they're literally sort of mass producing something for consumption. You know, I like to think that I'm an artist. My insecurity says you're not. Yeah, so by the way, is there anybody in the chat? I'm getting no
Yeah,
one.
Nick is here.
I literally am getting no one.
Bruce Durama is here.
I'm not seeing a single thing in the chat.
Maybe
So guys, I don't know
refresh it.
what's wrong with my chat, but I apparently am not getting any chat. So maybe I can. Oh dear. All right. Well, you keep me posted, Bobby, on what's happening, because
Sure.
I got nothing in the chat, like zero.
Sure.
And I was just like, ooh, it's a ghost town. Anyway, so, you know, during the developmental phases of my compositional identity and of my career, you know, go check it out. Draconis Cult of the Worm and some of the combat music. And you'll hear directly me taking ideas from Dmitri Shostakovich, one of the greats, you know.
Right.
Does that make me a hack? No, that's me paying respect.
Right.
And by the way, you know, jazz artists do this all the time, where they'll be in the middle of a solo and they'll do a little quote at the end, maybe of Charlie Parker, acknowledging, like, thank
Right.
you, Charlie,
Yeah.
I got this from you. And so my last 5 seconds of the solo is going to be what you did, right?
Yeah. In cinema, it's quite different because there's a culture of, you know, when they come up with a new film, they're saying, okay, we're going to make it look like this. This is our inspiration, and there are scenes where sometimes they'll directly copy, and that's just an homage to that, you know.
Of course.
But
Of course.
nobody says, oh, the director's a hack and the cinematographer's a hack because
Look.
they copied this scene. It was just a,
Correct.
you know, like a, hey, this
It's
is where
an
we got this.
homage.
Check out
It's-
our version, right?
Exactly. So like when you look at Quentin Tarantino and you
Right.
know, and you
Yeah.
see this sort of close-up shot of, you know, the gun over the holster and you see the enemy on the other side,
Yeah.
you know, that's paying homage to Sergio Leone, who made these great spaghetti westerns that Ennio Morricone wrote the music for. And so, and then you see the same thing in The Mandalorian, same shot,
Yeah.
right, of the gun close up. And, you know, The Mandalorian takes a lot from, oh, wow, for some reason, I just got Miles's text just started working, the chat. Anyway, so that, you know, they're not stealing, they're paying their respect. They're saying, you know, I know where this comes from.
Right.
So, and I respect it. And it helped me to develop my artistic vision. And thank you so much. So I think that Quentin Tarantino has changed cinema forever. He's proven that he's not a hack at all.
Yeah.
And you know, the storytelling format of Pulp Fiction redefined what cinema was completely. And I think it was like, what, second or third film? Like insane, no? And he created like so many iconic moments. It's incredible. Miles is saying, sometimes when I compose, I accidentally notice I'll accidentally write similar melodies to something else unintentionally. Happens to me too, by the way. But I find out, I always find a way to change it into something else and make it my own instead. And Miles, that's beautiful, man. You know, like that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Like, you know, because what you're doing, Miles, right, is you're saying to yourself, oh man, that's just like from Beethoven, and oh shit, man, and how do I make it mine, right? So you have a dialogue the same way I did. I consciously took from Shostakovich's Eighth Symphony, you know, and because it was similar, like I knew what I was doing. I knew I could also write music that didn't need to steal from him, and I did in the same game. It was just for whatever reason. I think, you know what it was? I think that was my first game that I kind of got to write orchestral music for. I think that's probably why I did that. Because, you know, although Asteroids, the cutscenes were orchestral, and actually Pitfall, again, the cutscenes and the main title menu was also orchestral, but there was nothing in game that was like an orchestral track in either of those games. It was always just the cutscenes, right? Yeah, so good on you, Miles. Good for you, man. Good for you. So I was going to send you an emote. Oh, I think that's the right one. Good on you, man.
There you go.
Good for you, Miles. Because that's the journey, right? That's the journey. That's the journey that you're on. And when you realize, oh, wow, you know why you're doing that? It's because you don't want to be a hack. And there's something inside of you saying, like, I want this to be mine. I don't want the voice anymore of the source I took this from. I eventually got there, you know. But you see, like, you know, the five nationalist Russian composers, you know, Glinka, Prokofiev, Mussorgsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, and I always forget the fifth, but if somebody wants to Google
The other guy.
But you know, they felt like the diatonic system and the chromatic system of European mainstream music had sort of gone as far as it could go, and Tchaikovsky certainly did that. He took that whole system and went as far as you can go. So they developed the octatonic scale, and it just caught on like wildfire. Like, you know, and that's the other thing I want to clarify. Like, I will do my best for everybody to like try and respond to the chat and do my best to answer your questions and everything. But we have to remember what the focus of this stream is. Like, we're here to talk about the music of Pac-Man World 2. And composing in general, and sort of the composer's journey as well. It's also a chance for Bobby and I to like talk and exchange ideas, and because he and I have great conversations like always. So I will do my best. But for example, I'm not going to go into a detailed, you know, explanation of what an octatonic scale is, because like I think a lot of people are here because they just love Pac-Man World 2 music, and they like the idea that the guy who wrote the music for it, oh, right, we have this, right? That the guy who wrote the music for the original, at least, you know, is willing to talk to you, and, you know, talking to Miles, and, you know, talking to Nick, and, you know, whoever else comes along. And, you know, and by the way, you know, sometimes it's hard to know and understand and interpret what's happening in the chat, you know. And
especially because of the delay. It's like 30 seconds or more.
Right.
Sometimes.
There's a delay. And so like,
really.
I don't know if you're like what you're referring to. And sometimes I can't interpret directly, like exactly what it is you mean by your question. Sometimes I get confused because it comes 30 seconds later. Right. And so, so, you know, I definitely sincerely apologize for, you know, if I don't get to your question, or, you know, if I misinterpret something, or if my answer upsets you. Like, I can promise you, I'm not intentionally trying to, you know, upset anybody. And, you know, I'm saying this because there was like a little thing that happened recently, and it really bothered me. So I'm kind of addressing it a little bit tonight. So, but I think that's enough on that. Let's let's one more time listen to the theft of King's Row and Star Wars, just because I have it up before I put it away. Right. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, literally, those first 3 seconds are 100% identical. And so, no, I do not think that John Williams is a hack. I just don't. Yeah. You know, if let's do a little quick little test. Okay. So if I ask you, where are we here? Let's go with this here. Let's see. Is this the right one? What soundtrack is that?
That's not John.
My point is that most people would answer that it's Jaws.
Jaws, right?
That is not. That is Dvorak's Ninth Symphony of the New World. I mean, that sounds a lot like John Williams to me, no?
Right. Those are his sources for sure. Right.
That's the Imperial March, man. I mean,
Right.
like, you know, so I don't think John Williams is a hack. I think he's one of the greatest and will always be remembered for like 1,000 years. People will study his work. You know, I mean, Bach stole from Palestrina. You know, do we get mad at Bach for that? No, you know, because he's going to be remembered for 1,000 years. If we only remember the Beatles' version of Roll Over Beethoven, are they hacks for doing that? Like, no, you know. And the thing is that, you know, Chuck Berry, who wrote that song, is immortalized forever in that song because it's his music. And anybody who really loves that song probably will look it up and be like, oh, wow, you know, like, I didn't know the Beatles didn't write that song. So, yeah. Anyway, all that. So let's talk about Blade Mountain, shall we?
Yes. Your favorite track of all.
Yeah. So like, you know, Bobby asked me earlier, like, kind of like, what was your least favorite Pac-Man music? And I had a really hard time answering that. And I kind of went through each of the worlds. And I kind of settled on Blade Mountain. And I apologize dearly if you know, because I think last week somebody said, like, Blade Mountain rules. And actually, the Guitar Institute of Hong Kong, the guy actually did a full live analysis and made a score, and the students played it. You can go on YouTube and see it. And that was like, I can't tell you how dearly I felt and how much it touched my heart. You know, it was beautiful, actually, you know, just that somebody took that amount of time. Anyway, I came up with Blade Mountain, I suppose, because I think like when you think about Into the Volcano and, you know, the Haunted Boardwalk, Spooky, and of course, you know, Bare Basics or Into the Woods or Bedouin Woods, or like, those are so unique and special and different. And so I guess it's sort of like the ocean world and the snow worlds were kind of like it's not that they're my least favorite, because I'm doing interesting stuff. And guess what's there? The Bonham Asteroid Dal. Who can forget that, right? Oops, where did there we go. There it is, right? Like, everybody can remember this, I hope, from previous streams, right? So, yeah, I mean, that makes an appearance here as well. Let's just have a listen to start. There's a bunch of sounds that did not load. So let me kind of fix that. That's really strange. Why did it not load? It should have loaded. I don't know why it did not load.
Did you ever beat Pac-Man World 2?
Say again?
Did you ever play Pac-Man World 2 from beginning to end?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah. Sure.
All the way to the end?
Yeah. When it came out, I was so excited, man. And yeah,
Right.
I played it from beginning to end for sure. So yeah, I don't know why these didn't load. And so, you know, I can also break down from a, you know, harmony standpoint, like a little bit why this is not exactly my favorite. There we go. Anyway, I'm seeing some other errors, like this is playing in the wrong octave, and all kinds of.
So do you think?
Let me get this. Let me get this in the right octave. Apologies to everybody. That's better. Oops. Let's listen to that again. Yeah, go ahead with your question, Bobby, by the way.
I was going to ask, do you think how does it become your least favorite? Is it because you thought you could have done better, you could have done more, it was just simple and you felt like it should have had more? Like where is it that you decide, this one is lower on
because on its, like, so first of all, there's this big debate in film scoring, right? Like, should music in film scoring be able to stand on its own, right? And be its own work of art? And there are some composers, famous ones, who think that if you remember the music after the movie, the composer failed. And I mean, then you're talking about John Williams at that point, right? So I don't agree with that assessment. So I suppose if we were to take all this music out of Pac-Man, I just find that Blade Mountain is sort of like the least interesting.
Okay.
And also, just from a compositional perspective, I think it has the least interesting harmonic structure. So it's just 1 to flat 7, 1 to flat 7, and it just sort of repeats, goes back and forth, and it doesn't, So it's sort of like just. Rhythm is also really just overly repetitive. It's just
okay.
And then I'm not even really making chords either. So like harmonically, I just find it just sort of lacks the depth. I find the percussion to be like maybe a little too repetitive. Although, I'm using the Bonham Asteroid Dowell, but I'm mixing it with this tribal. That's kind of fun.
Right.
And then there's, I mean, that's like fun, but it's not maybe the best rhythm. It's not rich as some other rhythms are, like Into the Volcano or Bedouin Woods. Like Bedouin Woods rhythmically is like just amazing. And so, I think that...
It's interesting because it looks like it's one of Nick's favorites, if not his actual favorite.
I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for... And listen, Nick, make sure I'm full screen for this. Okay, let's see here. Where are we? If this is your favorite, that's totally cool. It doesn't make you wrong for having it be your favorite. I'm just, it's like when I think about, I suppose harmonically and rhythmically. But you know what? I do think some of these melodies, actually, they're pretty cool. I mean, that's actually, you know what? Now that I'm playing it, I'm like, Nick, you're right, man. You're right, Nick. So, I think
context matters a lot here, right? Because
fair enough.
With film, with games, where you hear the song, where you are emotionally in that moment, can really attach you to that song.
That's an amazing point, Yeah.
So it's hard to take it out of that context and say, this is a song just by itself. Here you go. And that's kind of why I was asking what made it your least favorite, because it sounds like you were saying that by itself, it's not that great of a song. It's not something that I would, rock out to. But then again, in the game, apparently it's, it comes right at the right time and it hits those emotions.
I mean, when I think about like the melodies I wrote for the spooky boss, for example, and for the haunted boardwalk in general, and that whole sixth world. I mean, seriously, like those are some of the best melodies I've ever written in my life. And I said this on a stream before that like I just have no idea where it came from, like none. And I feel like if I tried my whole life, I could never write anything that good again. But in my defense, I've done some pretty amazing other soundtracks that are also have incredible melodies. And I think I say that often, like, how did I do that? This is amazing. I can never do that again. I think many artists feel that way. And, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, when I hear this melody, it's nice. It's a nice melody. But I could write something like that again very easily. And I suppose that's what qualifies this as being, because let's go here to the... Right? I could write something like that. It's very simple.
So you think it's because of that magic lightning in a bottle moment that you think like, okay, this wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this before, and we even tried, like, could I write a theme as good as the Pac-Man World 2 theme? And I couldn't do it because I'm just like a different composer now. And so I guess, yeah, I suppose like it's not as sophisticated as some of the other composing. I suppose that's what it is. But you know what? That could be why Nick likes it, because of the simplicity. Right. And there's a certain simplicity, like really, really, really in this. And I guess, like, again, when I kind of go here, that's kind of nice, actually. So it's growing on me. Lydian, there's a nice, beautiful Lydian moment there. And I realize that's playing underneath that melody. That's really interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's already growing on me, man. Lydian. Yeah, I mean, it's growing on me, man. So, you know what? It's a little bit like asking somebody which is their least favorite child. I mean, I love all the music from Pac-Man, and yeah, I mean, when I listen to this, I'm more and more reminded that actually it's a really nice track. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Well, does that make sense?
Santofu asks, what was your thought process when deciding the instrumentation for different areas?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, Blade Mountain takes place, in the snow world where there's snow everywhere. And I suppose it was like I was trying to sort of capture the feeling of the great outdoors. Now, in fairness, like, I mean, Bedoing Woods and, into the forest, like all these levels, the forest and treetop level also take place out in the great outdoors. It's just a different kind of great outdoors. And so I suppose like in the snow world, and it was also visually, I suppose, I just sort of saw it as being kind of grand. And in terms of, so that did play a part. And I think it's a great question because listen for a moment. I'll play you. Oh, I was listening to the outtakes the other day. Wow. Man, there's some cool ones. So like if you listen to, where are we here? Like Scuba Dooba, right? This is under the water. So you hear bubbles, right? And that right there, that melody, I mean, that was inspired by James Bond. and I think it was like For Your Eyes Only, where like he was like under the water, and found some air finally, and gave it to the woman, the female spy first, to kind of like help to save her, and then he took some. And I guess there was this sort of like, I remember those scenes, and if you think about it, Scuba Dooba, I mean, I know we're talking about Blade Mountain now, but I suppose like in a way, like those chords could be in a James Bond film, So like, especially the French horn with the strings, right? There's a James Bond-like quality to it. Oh, that, I mean, I'm using like the third degree of the scale in the bass notes, and I mean, could be. So like, in terms of like what informs my choice of instrumentation, I guess it was the worlds. And I suppose that, with things like the Bare Basics and Canyon Chaos, and all the way through to Bedouin Woods and, Treewood Forest and Butane Pain, this was all kind of a different kind. I suppose I was thinking more about Pac-Man and what Pac-Man was doing in the game rather than the environments, right?
Okay.
And now, why did I switch to then thinking about the textures of the environments? I don't know. I really felt there was this connection between, the forest level and the treetop level, because, well, you're in the forest, now you're on the treetops, right? So like, in a way, like you're just going to a different place in the forest,
Yeah.
But then, you get to Ice River Run, and now you're in an ice world, and then you get to Blade Mountain, and there's snow and a mountain, and I don't know. I guess like those things definitely probably informed my writing, because this writing, I mean, there's a grandness to it. You know what, Nick, you're right, man. This track is great. He's right, guys. No, I mean, the more I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's kind of good. It's kind of good. So yeah, I think that, for here, I was trying to like just, yes, get this sort of grand feeling of, being in the great outdoors, and having fun in the snow and the ice, and, all that kind of stuff. And I guess, I don't know, it just sort of felt right, and maybe it's from the Hoth system, the Rebel base in the Hoth system or something, the Snow World, and then right. John Williams, and, like, who knows why. But I know for sure, in the ocean level, it's like bubbly. You hear bubbles, in like that synth, which is the virus, the Access virus. Access virus is the name of a synth, by the way. It's not an actual virus. It's this guy right here. This is the synth. This is the actual synthesizer that I actually used on that level in particular. So, yeah. So I think that at that point I was trying to sort of, I think in particular the snow world and the ocean world, I'm really sort of trying to mimic the feeling of those worlds, right? And I think that, in the forest and the treetops, I'm trying to think about what is Pac-Man doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so the lava originally, like, they wanted something dark, but I guess I went too dark. I think somebody once commented, sad Pac-Man. When I played the outtake, I played the outtake.
Outtakes, yeah.
Yeah. So then I took some of those textures that were meant for the lava world. And again, with the lava world, I was again trying to sort of think of the environment of Pac-Man. Right. And I'm sure, Glenn and Yas, the guys who were my handlers, if you will. I'm sure they were also like, oh, well, like we're in the snow. Can we get like a big grand, they have, I mean, all producers give composers input. It's just part of the gig. So I'm sure I don't remember, but so then we get to the Haunted Boardwalk spooky levels, right? And there I was trying to think of something kind of spooky and but also something with some energy rhythmically, right? And I wanted a really good theme for Spooky because he's the arch nemesis of Pac-Man, right? He wants to get rid of these Pac people forever. For anybody that remembers the original intro cutscene. So yeah, I guess I suppose that Forest and Treetops music is really about Pac-Man, his movements. It's about his movements in the game as well. It's not trying to sort of score the background. And by the way, this is something that happens. I remember when I was doing X-Men Mutant Academy, for example, the original game, they went through like 2 or 3 developers. Like they kept firing developers because the developers kind of sucked. And anyway, one of the developers, they were doing like all these backgrounds. And so you would fight with like the New York City skyline behind you, or one of the other ones would happen in an Egyptian ancient crypt under a tomb. You know what I mean? So they had all these themes, and they wanted me to score the background. Right. So I did. And so, an Egyptian tomb is not going to be action packed. It's gonna, so I used some like, men singing and, low strings and whatever. And then somebody just said, dude, this is like, we're doing Mortal Kombat style action. This is so stupid. Like, let's not do this, but you see producers try things. And by the way, I think it was the producer on the game who realized the error in doing the music that way. And then my directive was just like, in your face, electronic rock, just we want action packed, just insanity. And that's exactly what I did. So I think that, like for sure there was input from Yas and Glenn. I like saying that, my handlers. It's great.
Can we hear the outtake real quick?
Of what? Lava?
Of the
yeah, sure. I found another
Pac-Man,
one,
as someone called it.
Yeah, I found another. Sorry, what?
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were saying something, but I suppose to finish off the point, I mean handlers in the most loving way, because they were both amazing. Both Yas and Glenn were wonderful. Glenn Kierton and Yas Naguchi, they were amazing, really incredible people to work with, and it was a real honor and privilege to work with both of those guys. All right, so here's an
Lego
outtake.
Says hi. Lego Kai Tai.
Sorry?
I think. There's somebody in the chat that says hi. That's it. Lego Kai Tai.
Okay.
I think it's Kai Tai.
Hello, welcome. All right, so let me see if I can find this lava music that was super dark. I think I played once. I played this. This is not the same rhythm. Yeah, this is one where somebody said sad Pac-Man. So I played this before on the stream. What I found recently was this. This is really dark.
A lot of tension here.
Yeah.
A lot of build up.
Because you're walking on lava.
Right.
So, but you can notice the rhythm in the background is the rhythm that went into the final, into the volcano and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there were many iterations along the way, and, a lot of music just outright gets rejected, I remember also, I think I played some of the Pond music, and there was like a ballad. Yeah, this is like kind of like the ballad version. Guys, this is the process. Thank you, Miles. So many things were tried and rejected. Double time. This is so adorable.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I could play double time over the same chords. This is really cool. Look how different the percussion is from the final, right? So everybody's losing their mind over this, like, you know? Oh, nice key change. That was so nice. Wow. This is like Homecoming on the Prairie. You know, like another key change. Look at that. Wow. This is freaking cool. I gotta say it, man. Why they rejected this, I'll never know. This is blowing my own mind. Who wrote that? This is blowing my mind right now. Yeah, you're right, Miles. You're right. And also,
yeah,
Newman.
Like end of the game, kind of.
Yeah, but Newman is also right. It could have fit that Pac-Man E3 level. Wow, it's so interesting. You know, like that.
And that was just rejected for what?
Say again.
That was rejected for what?
For what we now have in Pac-Land. Like,
yeah,
in other words,
why did they?
Oh, I mean, listen, I don't exactly remember why they rejected it. It probably just didn't. Look, you have to understand that every game producer, right, they have a vision, right? And so like the melody was approved. Like they really liked my Pac-Man melody. You know what I should really look for are some of the versions that I tried before they agreed on the one we know today. But the point, that would be really cool. If I can find those guys, I mean, that would be so cool. And by the way, many have asked, are you going to do an album of the outtakes? And I want to more than anything, guys. But
I think we can.
Yeah.
I think
really?
we can. I mean,
all right, we'll look into it, guys. We're going to look into it.
They don't know what you didn't give them or what they didn't take.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't pay for these outtakes, right? These outtakes technically belong to me, but they could argue that melody belongs to them. They could argue that, right? So I don't know. Anyway, here's the point, I guess, going back to this idea or of finding the original ones. Like, that would be really interesting. But I was saying, like, every game producer has a vision for the game, right? And look, as cool as that was, you know, what we just listened to, where are we here? As cool as that was, that's it right there. That's Pac-Man. I mean, it's lovely. This is the winner, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can understand why they.
Here's another one.
Listen to
this
the
is
two.
The prologue, right? You know, this is what won, and it's correct. I mean, as cool as this is, it's not.
It's a different vibe.
It's a totally different vibe, and it doesn't belong in Pac-Land. You know what this could work for? If, like, you know, Pac-Man goes through a time warp and winds up in the year, you know, 1685. You know?
Okay.
You know, with in the Baroque era, with like the white wig on. You know, I mean, you know, but it doesn't belong in the Pac-Man that we know. So, yeah, I agree, Miles. You know, what went into the final, I think it fits the game perfectly. And ultimately, Yas and Glenn believed that as well. And everybody who was like beta testing the game. And, you know, I feel so sorry for the beta testers because, you know, Bobby was complaining before the stream. He's like, every time we do a stream, the whole next day, I'm just humming the melody in my head and I can't get it out. You know, he's like, damn it. Imagine those beta testers. I'm sure they turned off the music at a certain point. They probably just turned it off, you know, probably put on their headphones and listened to like Metallica or something like that. You know, I'm sure. So it would fit the map screen. I mean, it could for sure, Newman. I think it could. I honestly don't think I can imagine World 2 sounding any other way. I'm with you, Miles. Right there with you, man. Give you another fist bump for that one. I agree. I just think that I mean, guys, it's hard to understate how many revisions happened on this game for music. How many times things went back and forth, and how many emails. Like, there was no such thing as Zoom or WhatsApp. You know what I mean? Like, you had to pay for every SMS message you sent, you know, like it's like 25 cents to send a message, like back in those days, right?
You got like 100 free and then.
Yeah. So like,
and it just went to shit.
Yeah. You got a certain amount every month and you saved them for like, you know, your wife or whatever, you know, like, so like everything was done through email. Also, I have the Excel spreadsheets. So we would always update this Excel sheet that got emailed back and forth. So they would ask for some revisions. They'd say, okay, well, that sounds like it should be in 1685 Baroque or Rococo era, you know. And then I'd be like, all right, well, here, what about this? And then they'd send back another email. Again, all on the spreadsheet, everything in the spreadsheet.
Okay.
And actually, that was my idea, was because so many emails were going back and forth. So I made the spreadsheet. And it's actually a tracker.
All in one place. Right.
Yeah. So every email that was sent, there was a column, you know, client comments, composer comments, and those are the last things, right? So there was everything like the date the email was sent, you know, the subject of the email, whatever it was, and which track was it referring to, right? So it's very, very, very organized. And the last two, like client comment, composer response or something like that, I just copied those two, you know, columns like infinitely, you know, so that we could just keep going. And so, I mean, sometimes there was like 10, 11, 12 revisions, right? Especially from Yas, because he, you know, he's a really talented musician and writer. And, you know, the funny thing is, after Pac-Man, I helped him produce a little 3-song EP, and it was lovely. Like, it was really nice. I found it the other day, and I'm not going to play it without his permission, obviously, but I listened the other day, and I got such a lovely, warm, wait for it, feeling, you know, from listening to it. It did, and it reminded me of, you know, because he and I, you know, we became friends through working on I didn't know him before I met him on this game project. So yeah, you know, a lot of time.
So that you had revisions. How many of those were just, so there was the rejections and then there were the revisions.
Right.
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 So, and the rejections were the outtakes.
Yes. So like
and at what point did a revision become a rejection? for you? When did you say, okay, I'll just start over? Or
Right, right.
did they say that?
Well, I mean, that's such a good question, man. I really, like, I don't even know how to answer that. You know what I might have to do at some point is like go through and look at the tracker,
Right.
and then,
Just
because
read
obviously
everything.
I would always put the file name in there so I guess, like, for example, one of those lava tracks was completely and outright rejected. I think the one with the low woodwinds and stuff. But even that really, the super dark one, all the drums went into the final one that got approved. So,
Right.
that first attempt with the low woodwinds, that got rejected. They're just like, no, it's not working. And then the super dark, we'll call it, with the right rhythms, by the way, probably, I don't know, but probably the request was, hey, we feel these rhythms are really good for the lava world, but we just, overall, it's too dark and depressing. Can you make something that's a little more light, but would belong, in a
Right.
lava world? And, if you listen to, if you listen to what I came up with, I did that. Where are we here? Into the volcano. There we are. All of these were in the dark. Some of the dark. But then this, like, skipping along, hopping over the lava. Oops. That hurt my foot. Whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, it's so interesting how games get made, and how one idea of what a producer wants can get completely rejected. I'm working on a game project now, and the client, there's a specific part where it's all Mexican music, and so they wanted Mexican music. So I thought mariachi, trumpets, but they wanted sort of more like Spanish guitar influenced
Mhm.
on Mexican, and so I the first track was outright rejected, and the second one, so sometimes, like, when you're communicating with a game producer, like, but you see, it's not a waste of time, energy, or anything, because
It's the
it's
process. Yeah.
it's the process, exactly. Like,
Right.
those lavas, the rejected ones in the outtakes, all of that led to what we now know and fits perfectly. I mean,
Right.
Miles and Newman, could you imagine those dark, depressing, into the volcano and magma opus? Like, no, you can't. You can only
Yeah.
imagine, this, because this is the right music. You know, this is volcanic panic, right? And again, this is perfect for the level, right? Into the volcano. See, there's a similar feeling percussively and texturally and rhythmically. This is
Yeah.
cool. I mean, and this is sort of what I was talking about with Blade Mountain, that it was a little more, I suppose, generic. Like,
Mm.
to me, Into the Volcano and Bedoing Woods, and I just, like, I can't point to any influence, guys. Like, none. Pac-Man is mine. I'm just gonna say it. Like, it's mine. It's my music. In other words, like, it's really
Right.
me. Whereas I suppose Blade Mountain, the snow level, did have some influence, like the Great Outdoors, John Williams, the Rebel system, or the Hoth system with the Rebel base, the snow world. And then, like, in the ocean world, that James Bond scene, like, those had influences, right?
Right.
Not on compositionally what happened, but overall texture. But, like, this is like, I can't point to anything. Really, I can't, And if I knew the influences, I would say so. I would argue some things from Spooky, you could argue, could have been written by Danny Elfman, right? Like there's definitely, because he's an incredible composer, like amazing. And, he did every Tim Burton movie ever. And, a friend of mine, actually, I produced a record for her when I was living in Los Angeles. She was an incredible hairdresser and, cut hair stylist, I guess you call it. And she would cut, whenever he wanted a haircut. And
Right.
he said to her, and I quote, because this is exactly what she told me, that, because he hasn't won an Oscar, he hasn't won anything. And he said to her, you know what? If there was a Danny Elfman Achievement Award and I was nominated to win it, I wouldn't even win it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm laughing because of it's so perfectly illustrates kind of how completely crazy Hollywood is. Danny Elfman should have an Oscar. And I don't know if he ever won one, but he did win.
No. I said he should have at least one.
He should have at least one because he's one of the
on.
greats. He's one of the greats,
Yeah.
In my opinion. He's a
People
real
want an Emmy?
artist, in every way. He's I don't know. I don't know anything about, I don't really, spend much time on following the careers of other composers, but, I mean, I know, John Williams certainly has an Oscar, so, and he deserves it,
He's won 3 Emmys.
Hans Zimmer won, I think, for Dune, right?
Hans Zimmer won
Dune or-
twice, Dune and Lion King.
Yeah.
Lion King was his first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but those are very well deserved,
Right.
But Gladiator's amazing, But,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, direct ripoff, The Barbarian Horde literally is taken from Mars, the Bringer of War, which was written by Gustav Holst in, I think, 1910. Literally, it's like a complete copy, but he made it his. And he did really cool things that were never in the original. So, and that patriotic theme he did. I mean, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, I saw that in concert last year. It was
Ba, da, da, da. Holy cow. I mean, that's you're not human if you don't have at least a little bit of a tear in your eyes. So, anybody out there, Miles or Newman or anyone else in the chat?
Questions. Spin, Pac-Man Music Man, hello. If anybody has any questions?
Anybody have
requests?
any questions before we, wrap it up and say goodnight?
Yeah.
So, Bobby, do you have any questions?
There's still that 30-second delay.
Right,
I've
30
asked a good amount
seconds.
of questions today.
You got 30 seconds to ask a question and for me to answer.
Right.
No.
Right. I don't know. I think it's just really fascinating that the whole creative process around how a composer. I'm always drawn between this artist service provider and how
Right.
we kind of tend to be people who get pulled into a direction, right? Whether it's a game director or producer, and it's their vision ultimately, right?
Exactly.
And we're there to service their vision.
Exactly.
And bring whatever we have built up inside of us for all the decades, and we put a little touch there. So
That's right.
and that's why it's hard to say when I wrote my paper for my MFA on what is bad music, bad music in film. And ultimately, my thesis was there is no bad music in film. It's just whether or not it fits the film.
Sure. Sure.
Because somebody's going to like the music.
That's right.
Somebody
Because everyone
sits
has
there and
different
loves that
taste.
music. So can we objectively say it's bad? The only thing we can try to objectively say is that it just didn't fit the emotions of the thing. So it's interesting when we think about game directors and producers and how they pull and then reject some tracks, right? They said this is too dark. I want this scene to be light and fun and
Yeah, for sure. It's all correct. And I would just say for anyone out there thinking of becoming a professional anything, doesn't matter what profession you go into, you must remove your ego. You have
Right.
to. You have to. It's essential for your survival. You know, I've had some producers say some very mean things to me, and audio directors say some very mean things to me. Like when I was one of the composers that Ubisoft called to do Splinter Cell 6, right? They were like, hey, we want you to do a demo for the game. And, you know, there's a lot of other composers, you know, like we have, you know, I don't know what it was, like 20 composers they were reached out to, and I was one of them. So, but like the audio director said, you know, this does not suit, you know, Splinter Cell, and you will not even make it into the top 5. Like what?
Ooh.
What is the purpose? Like, why would you say that? Like, how about
Right.
just, hey man, thank you so much for your efforts, but you know, we're just, you know, we don't think it's
We're going
quite
to go in a
right.
different direction.
You know, but like, good luck with everything, and you know, we'll
Right.
call you again in the future for another, you know, game. And you know, whatever. I have my Ubisoft title. I did one, so like, I'm happy for that. I was also rejected on Prince of Persia. They called me also for that. Yeah, Sands of Time, and I didn't get
Right.
that. You know, so oh man, still one of the it's such a badass track that I wrote. Oh my goodness. Actually, we got to listen to it before we end this stream.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
Why not? So Newman is saying, not necessarily about Pac-Man, but I saw in your portfolio the Transformers logo, and I thought I couldn't find a specific thing that it was, except for, but what exactly? Okay, so yeah. So years ago, I did some Transformers music, and it was never a game that was released in America. Believe it or not, it was an installation of like, I don't know, like 300 iPads or something like that, crazy. And it was in a giant mega mall in like Beijing in China. So it was like, so like you would so never even get close to that. Like you'll never find it. You'll never, you know, and I won't ever get credit for it. And, you know, but it was so fun to do those. Like those tracks were awesome. It was really, really, really fun doing those. So, but let's do this before we say goodnight. Let's listen to this Prince of Persia, man. And you know, Bobby, we talked about this, about how a lot of game studios are sort of leaning in the direction of wanting to work with artists. And that's exactly why I lost Prince of Persia. And they even told me that, like, you know, you're known as a game composer, but we wanted to work with this band because the band is really, you know, whatever. And, you know, that's, you know, that's totally fine. I totally get it. But yeah, I love this. Where is it? Oh, it's here. Here we go. All right, here we go. Prince of Persia. Woohoo. All right. Recognize some of the drums?
Yes.
That is one of my favorite tracks
That
that
was
I've
great,
ever done.
man. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always nice when somebody that's not my girlfriend likes my music and says it's nice. Um, and, I'm sure I'm doing, some kind of, pastiche ideas of like what is, Persian music and whatnot. And that's fine because that's exactly what, a studio wants. They don't want authentic, real music from the ancient Persian Empire. They want
Right.
what most people would think is Persian, which, I would argue that I'm more on the Arabic side rather than
Yes,
the
100%.
Persian side, right?
Right.
And that's fine, because that's what I felt was, and that's all I really knew, I suppose. Then, since then I've actually done a lot more research into the differences between Persian, Arabic, and Turkish music, in fact. So anyway, I love that track. So guys, you see what can get rejected?
Yeah.
A lot of things can, but they told me, they said, we love this. We think it's amazing, but we want to work with a band on this, and they're well known. The band was called the Tea Party. They're a Canadian indie band, and I don't even know like how it was received, that music, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. But anyway, guys, listen, the majority of the music you write, like you you will fail more than you will succeed. And this is why you never give up. Because if you give up upon your failures, I was rejected on one of the Splinter Cell, I think it was Splinter Cell 6 by Ubisoft. I was rejected for Prince of Persia, Ubisoft, But eventually I did the soundtrack for Heroes Over Europe, which is a Ubisoft title. So you know what? If I had given up after 2 tries. So I guess the point is that you have to be somewhat tenacious, have a very thick skin, be able to take rejection, not put your ego into it. If somebody says that's really garbage, I don't like it, you just say, okay, cool. Like let's talk about what you do like with that facial expression. You can't be like, but why? Because like it's not like what you said, Bobby, right? Like it's you're a service provider. You're there to do a job, and it's your job to make the game more fun to play. That's your job. I've always said this whenever I do a lecture on game audio and game composition. Your job is to make the game more fun to play. And so, with something like Pac-Man World 2, I think that it, it did make the game more fun to play, thank you, Newman. Thank you for saying, thank you for saying that. This goes hard. Yeah. Thank you guys. Miles, thank you all. That was peak. Thanks guys. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate it when thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, I guess, Bobby, if there's no questions from the people, I think we'll wrap it up. And, guys, listen, thank you all for coming. It's always a pleasure. And, I suppose we'll see you in a week. And, until then, take care, and always remember, in my opinion, I think that the purpose of life is to find some purpose in life, and the meaning of life is to find some meaning in life. Thank you, guys.